There's a quiet strength hidden in the moments we choose not to react. In a world that rewards outrage, impatience, and impulsivity, the ability to remain still, to feel without being ruled by feelings, has become a forgotten art. The Stoics taught us that we're not disturbed by events themselves, but by our judgments about them. And yet, how often do we hand over our peace to the noise of the world, to a careless word, to a fleeting discomfort? Today is an invitation to remember that freedom does not come from controlling life. It comes from controlling our response to life. This is not about suppressing emotions. It's about mastering the gap between what happens and what we choose to do next. In that gap lives your power. In that gap you become unshakable. If this journey resonates with you, I ask you to like this episode, share it with someone who may need it, and join me as we rediscover the true strength hidden in the power of not reacting. 1. Understanding your emotional triggers. Every emotional reaction we have is a messenger. It comes carrying a story, not always about the present moment, but often about something much older, something that left its imprint on us when we were too young, too unguarded to defend ourselves. To truly begin mastering your emotions, you must first become a careful student of yourself, learning to read these emotional signals like ancient letters written across the landscape of your memory. Think about the last time you overreacted. Maybe someone criticized your idea, and before you even had time to think, anger surged in you like a tidal wave. Or perhaps someone ignored you, and the sting you felt was sharper than the situation seemed to deserve. In those moments, the present is only the surface. Underneath, there's history. There are the childhood moments of not feeling heard, the betrayals that taught you to guard your pride, the fears you never spoke aloud. These are your emotional triggers, the unseen scripts that guide your reactions without asking your permission. The Stoics understood this intimately. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it." And those judgments, where do they come from, if not from our deepest, most formative experiences? To gain control over our emotional lives, we must stop seeing our reactions as isolated accidents and start seeing them as visible tips of invisible structures within us. This work begins with awareness, without judgment, without blame. Simply start observing yourself. When a strong emotion rises, pause. Ask yourself, what am I really reacting to? Is it just this situation, or something more? Notice the patterns. Maybe criticism consistently wounds you more than it should. Maybe being left out or misunderstood taps into an old loneliness you thought you had outgrown. These are not signs of weakness. They are invitations to know yourself more deeply. Self-awareness is a bridge between being controlled by your emotions and commanding them. Imagine walking into a dark room filled with obstacles. Without light, you trip and fall at every step. But when you turn on the light, when you bring awareness to what's in the room, you move with purpose, with clarity. You no longer blame the darkness. You simply navigate it with wisdom. And here lies a subtle Stoic truth. It's not about eliminating all emotional triggers. It's about seeing them clearly so they no longer hold power over you. Epictetus taught that events themselves are neutral. It's our interpretations, our attachments, our old wounds that give them emotional weight. When you uncover the origin of your triggers, you take the first step toward neutrality, toward freedom. This journey will not happen in a single day. It is a daily practice of observation, reflection, and compassion toward yourself. Sometimes you will catch the trigger before it explodes. Sometimes you won't. That's part of the process. But each moment of awareness is a victory. Each insight is a brick laid in the foundation of your emotional resilience. Ask yourself often, where did this reaction begin? Is it really about now, or am I carrying an old story into this moment? Over time, you will find that the emotional waves that once knocked you over begin to lose their force. You will stand steadier, not because life is easier, but because you are stronger. Understanding your emotional triggers is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming free. Free to feel without being ruled, free to respond without being trapped, free to live without carrying the invisible burdens of a past you no longer owe anything to. This is a quiet revolution within you, the first step on the path to unshakable peace. 2. Noticing the body, your emotional alarm system. Before the mind even has time to shape a thought, the body has already spoken. Long before you tell yourself, I'm angry or I'm anxious, your body is whispering the news. A quickened heartbeat, a sudden tightness in the chest, a tension building in the shoulders, a shallow breath you didn't even realize you were holding. The body is the earliest messenger of emotion. And if you learn to listen carefully, it becomes your most loyal ally in emotional mastery. Too often we live disconnected from our own bodies, lost in thought, rushing through tasks. We barely notice the physical sensations rising and falling within us all day long. But every emotion, every surge of feeling, has a physical signature. Anger might tighten your jaw. Anxiety might flutter in your stomach. Sadness might weigh on your chest like a stone. These sensations are not accidents. They are alarms, soft at first, loud if ignored, designed to bring your awareness back to yourself. The Stoics believed in training the mind through observation. They spoke less about the body directly, but their practices reflect a deep respect for self-awareness in all its forms. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about watching his own mind as if from a distance, observing its movements without judgment. Today, we understand that true observation must begin not just in the mind, but in the body, the very place where reactions are born. Noticing the body is the beginning of reclaiming the sacred pause between stimulus and response. Instead of being swept away by anger, fear, jealousy, or sadness, you feel the first ripple. You recognize, something is happening inside me. And in that recognition, you open a door where choice lives, a door where you are no longer a prisoner of your instincts, but an active participant in your experience. When a situation stays emotion in you, train yourself to check inward first. Instead of firing off a defensive remark, breathe into the tension you feel. Instead of retreating in silent resentment, place a hand gently on your own chest and notice the heartbeat. Slow down. Ask yourself, what is my body telling me before my mind tries to explain it away? This practice of embodied awareness is simple, but not easy. It demands presence. It demands patience. It demands a willingness to feel discomfort without running from it. In many ways, the body is more honest than the mind. The mind can rationalize, deny, distort. But the body, it tells the truth plainly. If you feel unsafe, your muscles will tighten. If you feel unseen, your breath will shallow. These signals are not weaknesses to overcome. They are invitations to deeper understanding. And with understanding comes choice. If you notice your body early enough, you can intervene. A few slow, deep breaths can soften the storm before it explodes. Relaxing your shoulders consciously can send a signal of safety back to your nervous system. Slowing your breath can break the rising spiral of panic before it consumes you. Mastery does not mean you never feel these waves. It means you learn to surf them instead of drowning in them. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Much of that suffering is amplified because we miss the body's early warnings and let our imagination run unchecked. But if you anchor yourself first in sensation, in what is real, right now, you strip the emotion of much of its destructive momentum. You ground yourself in the present, where clarity is still possible. Imagine your body as an emotional early warning system, a living compass that alerts you to storms before they fully form. Each signal is a chance to choose a different path, to step back, to breathe, to respond from wisdom rather than reflex. This is not repression. This is not avoidance. This is the highest form of emotional respect, listening fully before acting. In time, this practice becomes second nature. You will move through the world with a new sensitivity, not hypersensitivity, but awareness. You will notice the flicker of anger before it becomes rage, the tightening of anxiety before it becomes paralysis. And because you notice, you can navigate. You can choose patience over impulsiveness, calm over chaos, clarity over confusion. Noticing the body is not a small practice. It is the foundation of all emotional control. For without the ability to feel our inner landscape clearly, we are forever at the mercy of external winds. Master the signals of your body, and you begin to master the storms of your life. 3. Creating a pause before you react. Checking his own impulses, observing his own judgments. This was not self-criticism. It was self-clarity. Without clarity, freedom is impossible. Cultivating deep self-awareness begins with a simple practice: observation without judgment. Notice your thoughts as they pass through your mind. Watch your emotional waves as they rise and fall. When you feel anger, pause and observe it. What sparked it? What story am I telling myself about this? When you feel sadness, sit with it. Where in my body do I feel it? What memory or expectation is feeding it? This is not about fixing your emotions. It is about understanding them, like an astronomer studying the stars with curiosity, not condemnation. Journaling becomes a powerful companion on this path, not the polished journaling of perfect sentences and profound insights, but the raw, honest act of putting your inner landscape onto paper. Write your fears. Write your frustrations. Write your dreams and your doubts. See them outside of yourself, and in doing so, loosen their invisible hold. A thought written down is a thought made visible, and what is visible can be understood. What is understood can be transformed. Self-awareness also requires a willingness to see uncomfortable truths. It is easy to notice when we are wronged by others, harder to notice when we cling to victimhood. Easy to spot injustice done to us, harder to admit when pride blinds us. But deep self-awareness means facing even the part of ourselves we would rather avoid, not with harshness, not with shame, but with a quiet, courageous honesty that says, this too is part of me, and because I see it, I'm no longer bound by it. Seneca taught that no man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. In the same spirit, no one is more lost than the person who never looks within. Without facing the truth of your own mind, you are tossed like a ship without a rudder, at the mercy of every storm. But when you know yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your tendencies, your triggers, you can steer your life with intention. Self-awareness is not a destination. It is a daily practice, a lifelong conversation with yourself. Some days you will feel clear and strong, understanding your emotions as they rise. Other days you will stumble, act out old patterns, miss the signs. That too is part of the journey. What matters is not perfection but persistence. Each moment of honest observation, no matter how small, strengthens your capacity to live with intention rather than reaction. In cultivating self-awareness, you also cultivate compassion, first for yourself and then for others. You begin to see that everyone carries their own hidden struggles, their own invisible wars. You become less quick to judge, more quick to understand. And this understanding quietly transforms the way you move through the world. There is a serenity that comes from knowing yourself, a steadiness that no external chaos can easily shake. When you truly see yourself, your light and your shadow, you can no longer be manipulated by praise or destroyed by criticism. You become anchored in something deeper than opinion, deeper than circumstance, anchored in the simple, unshakable truth of who you are. Cultivate deep self-awareness, and you no longer live at the mercy of unseen forces within you. You become the quiet master of your own mind, not by force, but by the patient, courageous act of seeing, labeling and accepting emotions. You cannot master what you refuse to name. Emotions are like waves. They rise, they peak, they crash. And if you do not know what wave you are riding, you're far more likely to be dragged by it into actions you later regret. To cultivate emotional control, you must first cultivate emotional literacy, the ability to recognize what you feel, to call it by its true name, and to sit with it without panic or judgment. It sounds simple. It is not. Many of us were never taught to name our emotions. We were taught to label anger as wrong, sadness as weakness, fear as failure. We were taught to suppress what was uncomfortable, to dismiss what was inconvenient. But suppression is not control. Denial is not mastery. What we push away grows stronger in the shadows. The Stoics, despite their reputation for emotional restraint, did not advocate for ignoring emotions. They advocated for understanding them. Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." In the same spirit, no man is more vulnerable than he who refuses to face what stays inside him. True strength lies not in pretending you are unmoved, but in seeing clearly how you are moved, and choosing your response from that place of clarity. Labeling emotions is the first act of courage. It requires honesty. It requires vulnerability. It requires you to say without flinching, this is anger, this is fear, this is grief, this is envy. You do not have to act on it. You do not have to be consumed by it. You simply have to see it. The act of naming an emotion shifts you from being inside the storm to observing the storm. Instead of being overwhelmed by a vague, powerful force, you can step back and say, I'm experiencing frustration right now. This small shift from identification to observation is profound. You are not the emotion. You are the one witnessing it. And witnessing creates space. Space to choose, space to breathe, space to respond with wisdom rather than impulse. Once you have labeled the emotion, the second step is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It does not mean you approve of every feeling or that you surrender to being ruled by them. It means acknowledging that what is present, that denying the existence of anger or fear does not erase it. It only gives it more hidden power. Acceptance allows you to work with reality rather than against it. And the reality is, being human means feeling a vast, messy, complicated range of emotions. No one is immune. Not the wise, not the disciplined, not the strong. The difference lies not in the absence of emotion, but in the ability to meet it without being shattered by it. Think of emotions like weather patterns. Some days are sunny, some days are storms. You do not stand outside and scream at the rain, demanding it stop. You accept that it is raining, and you act accordingly, seeking shelter, moving carefully, waiting for the clouds to pass. Emotions are the same. Acceptance allows you to navigate emotional storms with steadiness and grace. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the nature of life's difficulties not as injustices but as facts. You have power over your mind, not outside events, he wrote. To apply this to emotion is to realize, I may not control what I initially feel, but I control what I do with it. And that control begins the moment I recognize and accept what has arisen within me. There is humility in this process, humility to admit that we are not always rational, not always composed, not always noble. Humility to admit that we are moved by fear, anger, desire, sadness, sometimes all within the same hour. But there's also great dignity in this, because when you accept your emotions without judgment, you reclaim your agency. You are no longer a puppet of denied feelings. You are a conscious participant in your own inner life. Practice labeling your emotions gently. You do not need to dissect them endlessly. A simple acknowledgement is enough. This is anger. This is loneliness. This is hope. Practice accepting them with kindness, as you would greet an old friend at the door, not necessarily inviting them to stay forever, but acknowledging their presence with respect. And remember, emotions are temporary visitors. They come and go. They pass through like seasons. Your task is not to freeze them or to fight them. Your task is to recognize them, accept them, and let them move through you without becoming them. In the end, emotional mastery is not about feeling less. It is about feeling wisely. It is about being deeply alive to your inner world without being ruled by it. It is about knowing, I can feel anger without lashing out. I can feel fear without shrinking. I can feel sadness without drowning. Label, accept, breathe, choose. That is a quiet, unglamorous, yet powerful path to freedom. Respond with clarity and firmness. But even then, the energy you bring, the calm or chaos you embody, is your choice. Responsibility is empowerment. It is a quiet armor that protects your peace in a noisy world. It is the invisible compass that keeps you steady when life pulls you in 1,000 directions. And it is not a one-time decision. Every day you are given 100 opportunities to practice. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when a friend disappoints you, when your plans fall apart. Each moment asks, will you react blindly or respond consciously? Will you blame or will you own? Over time, these small moments shape your character. They build a foundation of strength that cannot be shaken by the behavior of others or the unpredictability of life. They forge a resilience that is not loud or showy, but quiet, steady, unbreakable. Taking full responsibility for your reactions is not just a skill. It is a way of life, a declaration that you will no longer be at the mercy of forces outside your control, a commitment to live from within, anchored to your own values, guided by your own chosen response. Own your reactions, own your peace, own your life. Releasing the weight, ego, pride, and grudges.